that fall within their respective areas of responsibility. Thus, give you a concrete example. The allocation that will be made on Monday for various regional corporations would be made, announced by the Minister of Finance on the recommendations of the Minister of Local Government, following submissions put up by the various regional corporations. How the allocations end up is really a decision for the Minister of Finance, the technocrats in the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Planning, which controls the capital expenditure part of the budget and so on. But those decisions are not made by village councils, community councils, and the regional corporations and so on. The MSJ's point is to turn that on its head. Our proposal is to turn it on its head, that each regional corporation and other local government body ought to be allocated sufficient resources to address all of the priority needs in the community as a matter of law. That each local government body, like the THA, ought to be allocated X percent or Y percent, depending on the population size in the corporation and the geographical area and the particular absence of physical infrastructure. Each corporation ought by law, by a formula, to be allocated a certain percentage of the national budget. And they would then determine, according to their own needs, how they would expend that amount of money which they by law would be allocated. Of course, the accounting would have to be equally clear and transparent and properly done back to the Minister of Finance or the Minister of Planning, as the case may be. But that, our proposal, therefore, puts real power in the hands of local government. So all of this talk about democracy that we're going to hear tomorrow is smoke and mirrors, is old talk, is an absolute waste of time. Democracy and reform of local government can only arrive when real power is placed in their hands, and the Minister of Local Government really has very little to do except to receive the reporting and accounting for monies that are expended. The third aspect of our comment with respect to this issue of proportional representation is this. I don't think anyone has made this point before. This measure, we have no doubt of proportional representation because it did not appear to our knowledge in any of the recommendations that were being made in the local government consultations, because other than that it would have been talked about, nor did it arise in the consultations around constitutional reform. Otherwise you'd have heard Minister Ramadas speak to it explicitly. But this measure, in our view, came about as a result of the thinking of the Minister of Local Government, Mr. Suroj Ramachan. Why? Because if you look at what the Prime Minister said last week as one of the reasons why this reform, so-called, is necessary, she said that in the past, the selection of aldermen had been subject to the manipulation of some politicians. Go back and look very carefully at what she said. That's what she said, as a major reason for making this change. Now, what was the last occasion on which there was a manipulation of the process of choosing aldermen? You go back to the situation in Chaguanas Borough Corporation when Mr. Jack Warner, UNC Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West, went against the party position to have Mr. Suraj Ramachan returned as an alderman for the Chaguanas Borough Corporation and re-elected as mayor. Mr. Warner manipulated the councillors and ensured that Ms. Natasha Navas was elected as an alderman and installed as mayor of the Chaguanas Borough Corporation. That was the last occasion, and that was the most significant occasion where, and my memory, I don't know of any others, where there was an explicit manipulation of councillors to arrive at a particular outcome with respect to aldermen and the choice of mayor. That is what the Prime Minister and Mr. Ramachan are seeking to avoid. They're seeking to avoid Mr. Warner in situations where perhaps he has a minority of persons elected in certain corporations, trying to manipulate UNC members who are just elected as councillors to get ILP aldermen and mayors or chairmen of corporations, as the case may be. That is the real reason. That is the real reason. And it cannot be that an entire system of representation is now being manipulated to serve the interests of a party in government. An issue such as this must be up for public discussion, and even if it is the right thing to do, it must be done for the right reason and not for the wrong reason. The MSJ's position is, as we stated, in fact, it was one of the reasons why we left the partnership in June of last year, that local government reform, constitutional reform, proper governance have not been addressed by this People's Partnership. They were not addressed up to last year at all. In fact, it was our departure from the partnership that forced them to begin some kind of effort at reform, at least some discussions around reform. But those reform measures must be put to the population in a holistic way for full debate and discussion and for agreement on the way forward. It can't be done piecemeal and so on, and in particular in a way that does not change the relationship of power and really put power in the hands of citizens and local communities. That's the end of what we want to say about those two issues. I will take some questions. I have one other announcement, but we will do that in the course of the